Devanagari in Hindi, Marathi, Sanskrit, when we write the word Chita and Chinta, they appear exactly the same. Bindu Matra Visheshata. The only difference between the word Chita and Chinta is a Bindu. Chita Chinta Samayukta Bindu Matra Visheshata. In writing, there's only a small difference. In reality, however, there is a big gulf of difference. Why? Nirjivam dahate chita. Chita or a funeral pyre burns a person who's dead. Sajivam dahate chinta. Anxiety, worry, chinta burns a person while he's living. Constantly. Therefore in Hindi they say, Chita ek baar jalaye, chinta baar baar jalaye. And therefore yesterday we had a short discussion on the subject matter, how to deal with our anxiety, our worry, our past life memories and start living in the present, the power of now. This evening the subject matter for discussion is killing the Ravana within. The stories of Ramayana, the stories of the Mahabharata, the stories of the Bhagavad Mahapuran are not some mythological incidents, but are true historical events. And many of these events have also been historically proved by eminent archaeologists of the world. And therefore, one need not consider these stories as an imagination. One need not think that Ram is simply a mythological, imaginary figure created by a very fertile brain to scare all of us, saying he's God and if we do wrong, he'll punish us. So that fear will be there and we will do right. No, he's not a mythological, imaginary character. He's a real, historical personality. If you just go and search on the internet even today, you shall find evidence, satellite mapping of the bridge made by Lord Ramchandra from Rameshwaram to Sri Lanka. Krishna was not a mythological figure. He was a real historical personality who existed on this planet Earth just about 5,000 years back. Dr. S.S. Rao has done extensive research in the field of Mahabharata and Bhagavad and has archaeologically proven the existence of Dwarka and how it dates to 5,000 years back. Thus, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Mahapuran need not be considered an imagination, but must be considered a historical reality. Apart from its being a historical reality, because these narrations are the pastimes of God, the leelas and the activities of God, having heard them, narrated them or read them purifies our consciousness and our heart. In this age of Kali, we are living in an age of contamination and tremendous amount of contaminating forces pollute our minds. But when we give submissive oral reception to the messages of the Lord mentioned in these holy literatures, when we listen to these wonderful stories, pastimes and activities, we need to restart. If you know how to, you can. No, that's not how it works. It's not in Windows. It's got. But I shut it off now. Please excuse me, bear with me. This is a technology goof up. In the technocratic age, you can expect some technological goof ups. So give me 2 minutes before they asked me to shut off the computer. I shut it off and now it's shutting off and they said, hey, it's come. I am an engineer myself and I know how engineering advancements can often create blunders, Nevertheless, we will not stop our talk. We'll continue as the computer starts. A talk never depends on a PowerPoint presentation. A talk is the substance that we all are willing to hear, and a PowerPoint presentation is simply an aid, a help. And if that aid fails, well, fine. When we have such a fantastic, eager audience as the Goans, Well, I feel I don't need a presentation or a computer when you have such an amazing, incredible audience willing to hear these narrations. Any case. So, I was saying that it's not just that it's an historical evidence and not some imagination, but it definitely is also very, very purifying for our mind and our consciousness. The contamination that comes into our minds because of simply living in this age of Kali Yuga is inexplicable. And therefore, hearing these narrations, these stories, these pastimes can definitely clean the contamination in our minds and our hearts. Apart from that, it also has a very powerful value of imparting to us very crucial life lessons. Will you allow me to take 35 seconds off before I just start this? I have to take permission from the audience, just starting up. Because when I'm talking, then everyone's watching whether the presentation is starting or not. We'll just wait for a few seconds as it starts up. Yeah? Visible? Thank you. Watching a computer start is like watching a 3 hours movie, eh? Eagerly waiting what's going to happen next. Any case, so we discussed that there is historical evidence, it's not imagination. We discussed that it cleans us of the contamination that comes from the age of Kali. But over and above all of these benefits, these stories from the Ramayana and Mahabharata impart to us very valuable life lessons. And therefore, we are gathered here this evening to talk about this subject matter of killing the Ravana within. Definitely, several thousands of years back, there was Ravana in Lanka, but maybe there is also a Ravana sitting within each and every single one of us. And this evening, we are talking about learning from the Ramayana how we can deal with the Ravana within. Michelangelo, a very famous sculptor, made the entire Sistine Chapel. Last year I was in Rome, Italy, and the devotees there with whom I was living, they took me to visit the Vatican Church. When I went to see the Vatican, they took me around showing the Sistine Chapel, which was all the works of Michelangelo. Michelangelo depicted the entire life of Jesus Christ, beginning from his birth till his crucifixion, in the form of beautiful murals. When he was working on these murals, the first mural was Mother Mary holding baby Jesus. Now, how do you depict a divine personality? Michelangelo was very much concerned and worried of having a person who would look like Mother Mary, who would have divine looks on her face. And as one afternoon when he was sitting for lunch, his mother brought him a plate of lunch, and when she served it to him, Michelangelo thought, this should be the lady who will depict Mary, my own mother. So Mother Mary was now available to pose so that he could make the mural. But what about baby Jesus? Jesus would also have to have very divine, holy looks on his face, his little child. One evening, as Michelangelo was walking on the streets, he found outside a pub, a bar, a little child, beautiful little child, who was sitting there, very innocent and divine looking, and the people who were drinking were throwing some peanuts to him to eat. He was an orphan. Michelangelo picked the child up, brought him to his studio, fed him sumptuously, and then paid him a lot of money to say that you just come here daily and be in the arms of my mother, and seeing my mother holding you, I'll make this mural of baby Jesus in the hands of Mother Mary. He did it. And the mural came out really beautiful, extraordinarily amazing. It was about 14, 15, 17 years that he took to depict the entire life of Jesus. And now it was time for Michelangelo to make the mural of Judas, who betrayed Jesus with a kiss on his face. Judas, who was responsible for the crucifixion of the Christ. He who handed over Jesus Christ to the Romans, to the pagans, was Judas for some silver coins. Judas would have to have very mean, cruel, selfish looks on his face. Who would be able to pose for Judas? Michelangelo was in lookout. He was on a search to find out a person who would pose for Judas. And as Michelangelo was one day passing by, he found a guy sitting in a pub, absolutely drunk out of his senses. And Michelangelo requested this man to come and pose for his mural. He said he would pay him a lot of money. When this man came in, he was watching all the other murals. He was impressed. And when he came to the mural where Mother Mary was holding Jesus, beautiful mural, this man started crying. He started weeping. Michelangelo asked this man, what is it that touched your heart and struck a chord in your heart that brings tears to your eyes? This man said, can you see his baby Jesus? I was the kid who posed for baby Jesus when I was a child. 15, 16 years had gone, and the same man now had such cruel, vicious looks on his face that he was chosen to pose for the betrayer of Jesus Christ. The story was told by a very renowned speaker, and he was mentioning that within the same person there is a Jesus and a Judas living. In the childhood, the divine features of Jesus were seen on his face. As he grew up, the demoniac, cruel looks of Judas came on his face. Within each and every single one of us, there is a Jesus and a Judas. Within each and every single one of us, there is a Deva and an Asura. Within each and every single one of us, there is Ram and Ravana. Within each and every single one of us, there are the Kauravas and the Pandavas, the divine and the demoniac. And the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita very elaborately describes the divine and the demoniac natures. The chapter is entitled Daiva Asura Sampada Yoga. The divine and the demoniac. I make a very simple definition of what divine and demoniac is. Sura and Asura. Sura, divine. Asura, demoniac. And what is Sura? Mile Sura mera tumhara, to Sur bane hamara. When our Sur matches with the Sur of God, there is harmony. When our will matches with the will of God, there is harmony, and we are Sura, divine. When our Sur does not match with the Sur of God, when our desires do not match with the will of God, then that is demoniac or Asura. Asura does not mean simply someone who has, 10 heads, 20 hands, big teeth coming out of the mouth, big, blazy, coppery red eyes. No. Asuric mentality, according to the Gita, means not to live by the will of God. And Sura mentality means to learn how to calibrate our lives to the standards that are offered by the Lord Almighty. And therefore, we have to understand the fact that within us is the divine and the demoniac both. It is said that in the 4 yugas, Satya Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, Kali Yuga, things go on degrading. Between the word culture and vulture, there's only one difference, isn't it? an alphabet. Culture begins with C, vulture begins with V. In spelling them, there's only the difference of one alphabet, but in reality, there is a gulf of difference. Ayodhya means culture, and Lanka means vulture. Culture does not simply mean some dance performance, some music performance, some nice cuisine, the Goan soul kadhi. No, it doesn't mean simply some nice cuisine and, the musical performances of on a nice cruise on the rivers. What is that, Zuari? No. Culture is much beyond that. Culture means our values. Culture means our ethics. Culture means our morals. And very often, in trying to rush at a very fast pace and getting more and more, we are forgetting our culture. We are forgetting our values. We are forgetting the most wonderful ethical principles that the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad has offered to our country. And therefore, it is important to learn and understand the culture of Ayodhya, of Lord Ram, where there are values, there are ethics, duty, love, affection, relationships, harmony, cooperation, humility, charity. On the other hand, we have the vulture of Lanka, Ravana. The vulture goes high, high, high up in the sky, searing up in the heights of the sky. What is the vulture doing? The vulture's eyes are constantly on the ground where it can find a dead corpse, a carcass of a human, of a dog, of a cat, of a rat, something that it can find, and it swoops down on this dead corpse to exploit this dead corpse for its taste buds. Selfishness. Whereas Ayodhya is selflessness, culture, Lanka is selfishness, vulture. Where the vulture, like Ravana, out of his selfishness, simply wants to hold back, simply wants to exploit, simply wants to trouble, simply wants to torture, simply wants to create chaos instead of harmony. And therefore, it is very, very crucial and important to understand that within us there is culture and vulture both. What will come up, whether our culture will be shown, selfless service to God and humanity, or whether our vulture, selfish exploitation of our family, our friends and the world around will be shown, depends on whom we associate with, depends on whom we hear from, depends on what company we keep in our life. Otherwise, both are simultaneously existing within our hearts. It is said that there are 4 ages that time is divided into. The golden age, Satya Yuga, the silver age, Treta Yuga, in which Ram lived, the bronze age, Dwapar Yuga, in which Krishna came, and the iron age, Kali Yuga, that we are living in today, where Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. It is explained, in the golden age, Satya Yuga, the divine and the demoniac lived on different planets. The divine lived in Devaloka and the demons lived in Asur Loka, heaven and hell. As the age changed and it came to Treta Yuga, in Treta Yuga, the divine and demoniac lived not on different planets now, on the same planet but in different nations. Ram lived in Ayodhya, Bharatvarsha. Ravan lived in Lanka, but on the same planet. As the age went further ahead, in Dwapar Yuga, the divine and the demoniac lived in the same city, in the same family, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And in Kali Yuga, the divine and the demoniac live in the same body, in the same heart. That's how the ages change. In Satya Yuga, on people's homes it would be written, Atithi Devo Bhava. Any guest who comes is like God to us. Treta Yuga came, they changed the board. सुस्वागतम, देवो है कि नहीं मालूम नहीं, आ जाओ बस. It changed to Dwapar Yuga, said सुस्वागतम बोलना थोड़ा रिस्की है, क्या मिलता है गेस्ट से वो देखना पड़ेगा. सो दे रोट शुभ बट लाभ ऑल्सो, क्या लाभ मिलेगा, शुभ लाभ. एंड इन कलियुगा दे पुट अ बोर्ड इन फ्रंट ऑफ देयर हाउस, कुत्तों से सावधान. You know, that's how the ages go on demeaning and degrading. I was once in Haridwar, and in Haridwar I saw the advert for a tea stall. Quite interesting. How people can catch up on these concepts and make their advertisements is quite interesting. This tea stall, it was written there on the board, said, Ram Yug ka doodh, Krishna Yug ka ghee, Kali Yug ke chai, phook phook ke pee. You know how yugas go on degrading, that in Ram Yug there was doodh, in Krishna Yug some ghee, but now Kali Yug you don't have doodh, ghee, nothing. Even chai is not pure, the water is not pure, the milk is not pure, phook phook ke pee. In Satya Yuga, people would offer whatever they had to God. When Treta Yuga came, they said, whatever, too much, I can't give everything that I have to God. So what they did is they made a big circle and they threw things in the air, said, jo circle mein girega aapka, jo bahar girega mera. Then Treta Yuga came, they decided, well, circle mein bahut girta hai, so they made a line. Jo left mein girega Bhagwan aapka, right mein girega mera. Kali Yuga came, they said, line, too much. They threw in the air, said, Bhagwan jo pakad sakte ho, pakad lo, baki mera. That is how ages go on demeaning. The point we are making is that in Satya Yuga, the divine demoniac live on different planets, heaven and hell. In Treta Yuga, they live on the same planet in different nations, Lanka and Bharatvarsha. In Dwapar Yuga, they live in the same city, same family, Hastinapur, Kuru dynasty, Kauravas and Pandavas. And Kali Yuga, here in the Pandal, Jagruti Pandal, within us, the vulture, the culture, the divine, the demoniac are living. We are going to draw a few lessons from the personality of Ravana and try to see what Ravana represents for us and how we can deal with the Ravana within our minds, within our consciousness. Dashanana, Dashagriva, the 10-headed monster, Ravana. 10 heads, 20 hands. I was once in a local train in Mumbai and they had an advertisement for a headache pill. They depicted Ravana. One pill, 10 headaches gone. You know, that was the advertisement for a headache pill. Take a pill and your headaches are all gone. 10 heads. So if we have one head, our headache will definitely go by the pill. That was the kind of message they were giving. Ravana, what was his formula of happiness? His formula of happiness was, happiness comes from things. I get a Lanka made of gold. I have mansions made of gold. I have beds made of gold. I have plates made of gold. I have food, hopefully not made of gold. That is the story of King Midas. I have chariots made of gold. Everything around is gold, 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 gold. Swarna Lanka. And Ravana was thinking, the more I get, the more gold I have. My happiness lies in things. My happiness lies in amassing more and more and more. The fact of the matter is, every single one of us wants to be happy. Is there anyone sitting here in this audience today says, Sir, please tell us the formula to be miserable. Please tell us how to be distressed. Please tell us how we can be mental, nervous wrecks. Please tell us how we can be useless, good for nothings, just whiling away our time and becoming a victim of our crazy minds. No, friends. None of us here seated in this august assembly want to be miserable. Every single one of us want to be happy. We eat good food. Why? So that by the taste we feel happy. We buy wonderful designer wear garments. Why? Because we want to wear these clothes and be happy. We go for a holiday to Goa. Of course, you don't have to go to a holiday to Goa. You're Goa Vasis. You probably want to go to some other place for a holiday. But a lot of other people come here to this city. They go to Goa. Why? because they want to be happy out of their vacation. Who in this world does not want to be happy? The problem, however, is most people do not know the true path that leads to happiness. Ravan represents mistaken idea of what happiness means. We have to have a correct idea of what will really give us happiness. Will things really give us happiness? It is said that all the money we possess can buy us a beautiful house, a fantastic house, not a home. There's a difference between a house and a home. A house is a building, home is a family. We can spend a lot of money, all our wealth can buy a house, but not a home, a good family. With all of our wealth and our money, we can buy a library full of books. Unfortunately, we can't buy knowledge. We can't buy caliber to understand those books. With all the money that we have, we might be able to purchase a fantastic bed, probably a Hager's bed like I mentioned yesterday, 16 lakh worth. We can buy a fantastic bed with our money. Can we buy sleep? In that 16 lakh worth bed, this guy is all night long in anxiety, tossing and turning for some sleep. With all the wealth and all the money we have, we might be able to buy medicines, the best medicine in the world. Can we buy good health though? Eating the best medicines, people miserably die out of poor, failing health. With all the money and the wealth we have, we might buy a first-class designer Omega watch, 50,000 euros worth. 50,000 euros worth. But can we really buy time? We can buy a watch that marks time. Can we buy time? A moment lost is lost forever. With all the money we can buy first-class gadgets. Can we buy leisure? Unfortunately not. It's not wrong to have an Omega watch. It's not wrong to have an iPhone. It's not wrong to have a wonderful mansion. It's not wrong to have amazing books. But we should remember that our happiness doesn't come from these things. Ravana represents finding happiness in things. Ram represents finding happiness in service. Ravana represents finding happiness out of exploitation. Ram represents finding happiness out of devotion, love, relationships and affection. And therefore here we find in Lanka, Ravana simply trying to, amass more and more and be happy. When I was in the Government College of Engineering, Pune, studying there, I remember going to the college canteen one afternoon and ordering for the best delicacy of the canteen. I believe it was a samosa. 4 of us friends who were sitting there on the banks of the river Mulla Mutha, having this hot samosa. And one of my friends said, "Hey man, this is a great samosa. It's so good. It's just rightly spiced. It's just hot. The cover is just crisp. It's all really perfect and fine. The day is fine. The weather is good. The samosa is perfect. Couldn't have been better." And as he was saying so, one of our other friends came and said, "Hey, do you know what? Our results have been declared." I said, "Wow, great." I felt it was below my dignity to ask what my results were. It's too much, ask, "Mera kya hua?" But the other friend of mine said, "Mera kya hua?" He said, "Tera 4 wicket down hai. You flunked in 4 subjects." Half the samosa was still in his hand, and he was wondering, same weather, same samosa, exactly spiced, perfectly hot. Now that samosa was not giving him pleasure or happiness, it was now just in his hand, and there was a face of his father that he was seeing in all directions. Pitaji ko kaise muh dikhaunga main apna? Right. Happiness doesn't lie in things, friends. If the happiness was in samosa, why after hearing this news couldn't he relish that samosa? Happiness lies in the state of our mind. Happiness lies in the state of our consciousness. And therefore, Ayodhya represents how to come to that land of consciousness. Someone, a very wealthy man, may go to Belgium, for a vacation. And a middle class Indian man who may not afford to go to Belgium for vacation may go to Belgaum for vacation. Someone very wealthy might go to Singapore to spend his summer. And someone who's not as wealthy might go to Shani Shingnapur to spend his vacation. Belgium or Belgaum, Singapore or Shingnapur, rich or poor is not the standard of happiness. In Ayodhya, the standard of happiness is service to God, service to Lord Ramchandra. Why is everyone satisfied? Why is everyone happy? Minimum or maximum is not the standard of happiness. We can have maximum and no problem, and we can have minimum and no problem. A person who's living in a shack, a hut, can be extremely happy if he's connected to the Lord. And a person living in a mansion with the most comfortable luxuries can also be equally happy if he's connected to God. Happiness is not directly proportional to what we have, nor is happiness inversely proportional to what we have. Happiness has nothing to do with what we have. One of those who prioritizes service to Lord Ram was the brother of Ravana, Vibhishan, who was coronated the king of Lanka after Ravana was killed, and Vibhishan was rolling in luxury of Lanka. But because he was always connected to Lord Ram, in the most luxurious palaces, he was happy, and it was not the palace that made him happy. It was not the fine foods that made him happy. It was not the luxurious chariots that made him happy. It was his connection to God, Lord Ram, that made him happy. So please have as much wealth, there is no problem. Have a mansion, no problem. Have a Merc, a Porsche, or a BMW, or a Jaguar, or a Land Rover. Does not matter. But make sure that we are always connected to the Lord. Because that connection to God, who is the source of all joy, Ramayati iti Ramaha. The very name Ram means one who can give pleasure. When we are connected to the source of all pleasure, we are happy. Just like when this electric bulb is connected to the generating station, then it gives light. We are like those bulbs. When we are connecting to the source of all power and happiness, Ram, Krishna, God, that is when we are happy. So have as much, no problem. That's not the message of the Gita. Have as much money, as much wealth, but don't forget to make your connection to the Lord. Otherwise, we'll have the most, but be miserable. A lot of Western civilization is based on that. So much, but a lot of misery, because not giving prominent position to God. Of course, today, a lot of Westerners, very nice people, turning to God, trying to learn how to connect to God, and finding their true happiness. We have, on the other hand, Vibhishan rolling in luxury of Lanka after being coronated as the king. And we have a tribal lady, a simple lady living in a shack, Shabari, who has nothing. Where is her money? Where is her wealth? But she is as happy as Vibhishan was. Because happiness didn't come from the palace or the hut. Happiness didn't come from the kachori samosa in Lanka in Vibhishan's palace or the berries that Shabari had. Happiness came from their connection to Lord Ram. Vibhishan, in the maximum opulence, was happy, and Shabari, in the lack of any opulence, was as happy, because happiness comes from connection to the Lord. And we have, on the same boat crossing the river Ganga, Kevat and Guha. Kevat, a poor boat rider, just taking people across the river. And Guha, a wealthy king of the tribals. Lord Ram stayed with Guha, Lord Ram sat on the boat, and here are two people, a wealthy king, tribal Adivasi king Guha, and Kevat, both sitting together in service to Lord Ram. Both are equally happy. Are you all getting the point I'm trying to make? That happiness has nothing to do with things as Ravana felt. Happiness has to do with our service and our connection with the Lord. Like Vibhishan, Guha, Kevat, Shabari, in spite of whatever their situation was, they were very happy. So lesson 1, what Ravan represents for us is the wrong idea of where happiness comes from. Have things, no problem. As much, no problem. But make sure that we have our connection with God. And if someone doesn't have things, no problem. Make sure we make our connection with God, and then whatever we have will keep us happy, satisfied, contented, and fulfilled. The second thing that Ravana represents is the grief because of being a thief. Ravana was thief number one. Why? He wanted gold, he wanted Lanka, he wanted opulence, but he didn't make it. Kuvera was the owner of Lanka. It was he who owned Lanka. Ravana came, drove Kuvera, the treasurer of all Devatas, out of Lanka, captured Lanka, stole Lanka from him, and started saying, now this is my life. I'm enjoying life after having stolen and cheated Kuvera. In fact, he even stole the Pushpak Vimana, the plane of Kubera, and kept it for himself and made Kuvera practically a refugee. So Ravana, he represents a thief. Killing the Ravana within means trying to kill the cheating mentality within us. Ravana cheated Kubera to get what he had. Similarly, many times we engage in malicious, vicious, cheating, dishonest means to get what we have and what we want in our lives. And killing the Ravana within means to kill the grief that comes about because of being a thief. Being a thief must be followed by grief. There's no choice. In this world, every action has an equal corresponding reaction. What we do must come back upon us. What we invest will definitely be boomerang back on us. Jaisi karni, vaisi bharni. As we sow, so shall we reap. And therefore, if we are thieves, grief must come like it did come to Ravana. What is important to understand is, we may say, thoda about cheating, there's not much choice we have in our life, in our business, in our work, we have to say something, and that's fine. Kali Yuga has a notion of faults. Certain things for subsistence people do, that's fine. I'm not supporting it, but what do you do in a world, dog-eat, dog-live world like this? But at least we should not be a thief stealing from God. This entire world and this universe is God's property. And if we are simply taking it away, keeping it for ourselves, we become exploitative thieves. हम तो थोड़ा डोनेशन देते हैं ना भगवान को भी, ऐसा थोड़ी है. हम जाते हैं ना मंदिर में जी, ऐसा कैसे बोलते हैं आप? हम जाते हैं मंदिर में और मंदिर में जाके 1 रुपया डालते हैं. गुल्लक में योगदान देने के लिए 1 रुपया डालते हैं और अपने कपड़ों पे कितना खर्चा किया, अभी क्या बोले हम आपको. बंबई में हम किसी से मिल रहे थे, उनके कुर्ते की कीमत जानना चाहते हैं आप? 1.5 लाख रुपये. केवल एक कुर्ता 1.5 लाख रुपये का बना हो. मैंने कहा सोना है, चांदी है? कि नहीं, कुछ नहीं है, केवल बड़े माहिर फैशन डिजाइनर ने डिजाइन किया है, इसलिए 1.5 लाख रुपये इस कुर्ते की कीमत है. How much money do we spend? How much time do we spend on ourselves? God is the giver of all gifts to us. Ram is the giver of everything to us. And therefore, we should not be thieves like Ravan stole from Kuvera, but we should start learning how to utilize what we have in service of Lord Ramchandra. The world today is a world where we see people who are so much excited and attracted by personality and charisma. Good looks, good speech, good behavior, dynamic personality, lot of wealth and facility, he should be my friend. And a lot of people today are not attracted to character, helping hands, trying to serve others, trying to help others, try to benefit others. From the World War II, where character was the prominent thing, times have changed. And today, looks, wealth, possessions have become the standard of what we want to be with. Tell me, whom would you like to be friends with? A good-looking, handsome fellow who is criticizing you behind the back, who has no integrity, who is a member of the mafia, who kills people, who ruins people's lives, or someone who's not so handsome, is not so well off, but is an excellent friend to you, who wants to love you, who wants to help you, who wants to serve you, who wants to give you a shoulder to put your head on when it's time of need. We want to have the second person as our friend, not a person who looks good, has a lot, but is always trying to demean us. But that's the society today. Going by looks is Lanka. going by character, is Ayodhya. And therefore, it is very, very important to learn to become Bharat. Bharat went to request Lord Ram, my dear Lord Ram, you come back and rule. I shall remain in Vanvas for 14 years. Lord Ram said, no. I am duty bound to follow what my father has told me. You go back and rule. Bharat said, no, my dear Lord, it's not mine. Ayodhya is yours. This is my order, Bharat. You should go and rule Ayodhya. Bharat put padukas, wooden shoes and sandals in front of Lord Ramchandra and brought these sandals and put it on the throne of Ayodhya, considering Lord Ram to be the owner, the proprietor, and himself to be simply a servant, a caretaker. Bharat lived in Nandigram a very simple life, trying to serve Lord Ram by ruling as a caretaker. Lord Ram is the ruler of our life. Lord Ram is the owner of our body, our family, our money, everything we have belongs to God. It's a gift given by God to us. We should be like Bharat, not like Ravana. Ravana was a thief trying to steal. We should be like Bharat, a caretaker. This body is God's property. I'll take good care of this body so that I can serve God. I'm a caretaker. I won't neglect my body. I'll take good care of my body in service to the Lord. This business is mine. I'll take excellent care of my business and grow more and more because I'm not the owner. I'm only a caretaker. Because it's God's, I'll do the best I can for God's service. This family is mine. My wife, my kids, everyone is Lord Ram's property. Lord Ram gave them this bodies and the souls. I'm simply a caretaker of my wife, my family, my children. And because it's Lord Ram's property, I'll take excellent care of my wife and my children and my family in service to God. That is Ayodhya. The culture of considering God as the owner, ourselves as the caretaker, and trying to serve the Lord together. A family that prays together, stays together. A family that chants, a family that dances together in kirtan, advances together. A family that sings the name of God together, clings together. A family that dines, food offered to God, shines together. A family that prays together, stays together. A family that dances together, advances together. A family that dines together, shines together. And a family that sings together, clings together in service to the Lord. That is the culture of Ayodhya. Whereas Ravan culture, Lanka culture, steal from Kuvera, steal from Ram, steal, cheat and enjoy. And therefore the second thing that Ravana represents is the thief or cheating mentality, that I am the owner. And what does Bharat represent in Ayodhya? Ram is the owner, I am simply the caretaker. The third thing that Ravana represents is also interesting. Have so much, but dissatisfied. Itna hai, phir bhi ye dil mange more. Isn't it? There is so much, but I just want more, and just keep having more, become a chore, right? And participate in the shore, and then realize at the end that, man, I forgot to experience and enjoy what I have. So much, but dissatisfied. Ravana represents this mentality of dissatisfaction. In spite of having so much, he was dissatisfied. He had so many ladies whom he had kidnapped, and they were all there in his palaces. In fact, he had one of the most chaste and wonderful wives, beautiful wife, Mandodari. Yet, he wasn't satisfied. Ravan represents the lust, the greed for more and more and more, and failing to experience and enjoy what one has. In spite of having Mandodari, he wasn't satisfied, and Ravana, he came to do what? To kidnap Sita. Kidnapped Sita away, kept her in the Ashok Vatika, still dissatisfied. And today's culture is also a culture of dissatisfaction. Children in the olden days would play with toys, gilli danda. लकड़ी लो, उसको तोड़ो, मारो, पीटो, खेलो, खत्म हो गया, घर में जाके खाओ, सो जाओ. Or they would play with something like, marbles, and they were happy, satisfied. They would play with each other, lukka, chuppi, hide and seek, this and that. Today's culture, kids have so many toys. I've been traveling all over the Western world for the last 4 odd years now. And when I go to the homes of our devotees in the West, I find kids having a room called the toy room, which is full of toys. Why? Oh, I have this, not this, dissatisfied, more. Not this, dissatisfied, more. Not this, dissatisfied, more. It's just the culture today. Not to find satisfaction in what we have, but just wanting more, more and more. A kid on his table has all of these Leo cars, racing cars and all of these things. And he wants more and more. This model, that model, blue car, red car, yellow car, Porsche model, this, all toy cars. The difference between the children's toys and the elder people's toys is the price that they have to pay for that. It's only the difference in the price. Both are toys only. Big toys and small toys. And there's no satisfaction. We have a Mercedes-Benz. No, I'm not satisfied. I want this one. I want this one. I want this one. Like I said, to have is not a problem, but to think that will make me satisfied is a problem. Looking for more, more, more. Like Ravana, Mandodari is with him, but I want Sita. I have a beautiful car, but I want that one. I have a beautiful house, but I want that one. I have a beautiful wife, but I want that one. Sorry for that, but today that's becoming the culture. It's not the point of making a chaste wedlock and then remaining. All those who are in the bygone ages are still maintaining that chastity. And fortunately in Bharatvarsha still it's not so bad. But it's coming in. Use and throw, use and throw, use and throw, use a paper napkin, throw, use a pen, throw, and then use a wife, throw, use a child, throw. Lack of satisfaction and wanting more, 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 more and more. I was watching a video called The Story of Stuff by a lady called Annie Leonard from the United States of America, who's talking about how consumption of objects and things has become the standard of success in our lives today. The more we consume and buy, the more successful we are considered. In America, the slogan is shop, 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 till you drop. You see? After the 9/11 incident in the United States, the message that the president gave to the Americans was not to pray for those who departed, not to grieve, not to kind of give solace to each other, but was to shop, shop and shop. There is evidence for this. Can you imagine? Consume more and more and more and keep feeding the pockets of a lot of others up there is the civilization today. And goods and things are designed in a way that they should fail at a certain time, so you want a new one. A computer is designed in such a way that in 5 days more a new product is being launched, but they will not put that technology here because otherwise how will it sell? So 5 days later you realize, my God, I missed that one. Oh, if only I would have waited for 5 days more. And it lasts. But people in and around us make us feel if you don't have that one, life is not cool. You're no longer considered cool. I remember when I was a kid, my mother used to give me an umbrella to go to school in the rainy season. I hated umbrellas with those Dadaji kind of umbrellas, that U-shaped one, you walk with that. Oh my God, that was the day, those were the days where we had this button operated umbrellas come, and I was like telling my mom, this is too much. How can you give me this umbrella? I'm not an old man. I need that nice button-wala umbrella which is like with the times. My mom was not concerned button or not button. The umbrella was big and we were not getting wet. But I see that the button came, the folding, the 2-fold, 3-fold, this much fits in your pocket. Go to Mumbai today, I don't know how it's in Goa. The fashion today again is having an umbrella like an old man. It's just so common, And therefore, the culture is simply have things, things, things and things. More, more, more and it'll satisfy you. More doesn't satisfy us. A service to God does. 100% satisfaction guaranteed is what every product promises. We buy it and we realize it doesn't give us 100% satisfaction. 100% satisfaction comes by love, by affection, by chastity, by our service to God, and not simply by things. Ravana was anti-Ram, he was miserable. Hanuman, Bharat, others were pro-Ram, they were happy and satisfied. The culture of you will come as gopis and then we will have our pastime, not now taken the vow of Ekpatni Vrata. Therefore, the third thing we learn from Ravana is Ravana represents the culture of dissatisfaction and wanting more and more. Ayodhya, Lord Ram represents the culture of learning how to be satisfied with what we have in service to the Lord. The fourth thing that Ravana represents is also very interesting. It is said that there were two greatest fools that lived on the planet. One was Ravan, the second was Duryodhan. A lot of times good advice was given to them. Time and again they were warned that you're doing wrong and what you do will come back to you. The world is a world of laws and the laws of karma work. As you sow, so shall you reap. Change your ways, mend your ways, reform yourself. Give Sita back. Give Hastinapur back, Duryodhan was told. Otherwise, you will pay for it. But good advice only falls on deaf ears. They were not willing to accept this good advice. Therefore, Chanakya Pandit has said, Payam panam bhujanganam kevalam vashavardhanam upadesho himurkhanam prakopaya nashante. Payam panam bhujanganam. You have a bhujanga, a cobra, and payam panam. You make the cobra drink milk. It won't be pacified. Its poison will only increase. Just like the cobra's poison increases by feeding it milk, similarly a vicious, cruel person's cruelty increases by giving him good advice. It doesn't change him, it only makes him worse. So many gave Ravan good advice. Kumbhakarna, his own brother, gave him good advice. Mandodari, his wife, gave him good advice. Vibhishan gave him good advice. Maricha, who became the golden deer, said to Ravan, don't play around with this person Ram. You will pay for it. You will mess your life. He didn't hear. Hanuman came to Lanka. And Hanuman had destroyed Ashok Vatika. They tied him up and brought him to Lanka, Ravan's palace. And Hanuman told Ravan, I am an insignificant servant of Ram. And being an insignificant servant of Ram, if this is what I could do, you have seen and witnessed, you can imagine what Lord Ram will do to you. Come back to your senses, man. Return Sita back. You will save yourself a lot of trouble, anxiety and misery simply by giving her back. But this gentleman could not hear the advice. He set his tail on fire and the entire city of Lanka was burnt. But this guy saw what Hanuman did. Still he did not change. Still he did not listen to the good advice that was given to him. So, demoniac mentality, Ravana mentality means not listening to the good advice given to us. Gita, Bhagavad, Mahabharat, Puranas, Upanishads, the gurus, the holy teachers are constantly willing to help us and give us good advice. But Ravana mentality means putting a filter on the ears and saying, nahi sunna hai mere ko ye. और सुनना भी है तो इस कान से निकाल के इस कान से डाल के उस कान से बाहर निकाल देंगे और अपना जो करना है वो करते रहेंगे like Ravana continued doing what he wanted to do. Therefore, Jagruti should not simply be a 2-day festival where we come in here. These things, these principles, these values, these ethics, these teachings are meant to be applied. This good advice must be given attention to. Otherwise, our destination will be the destination of Ravana. Because what we do does come back. Like we discussed yesterday, we have to learn how to make the right choices. And the problem with our country today is, because of not taking the advice of Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, Vyasadeva written in these holy scriptures, we have a lot of so-called material opulence, but our culture is going down, degrading. Ayodhya is turning into Lanka because of modernization, because of simply materialistic pursuits and hedonism. We have to turn our attention to the advice that the Gita, the Bhagavad, the Puranas, the Vedas, the holy literatures are giving us. Otherwise, like Ravan was destroyed, at the fag end of our life, we shall see we will be finished. That is the culture of Lanka. On the other hand, we have the culture of Ayodhya. When Vibhishan came to take shelter of Lord Ramchandra, Lord Ram did not say, who cares for advice? He consulted every single monkey general and said, should we give him shelter? Lord Ram is God. He doesn't need anyone's advice. But he was teaching by example. The culture of Ayodhya means seeking advice, seeking counsel, seeking guidance, and then acting. So Ravan represents for us not willing to hear good advice. And therefore, destruction then is inevitable. Ayodhya, Ram, Lakshman, Bharat represents for us giving our attention to the good advice. And last but not the least, the fifth thing that Ravana represents is the power of the names of God, the holy names of Krishna. Ravana had 10 heads. On the first day of battle, Lord Ramchandra came. He strung his bow. He put his arrow to shoot Ravana. Ravana was badly defeated. Ram said, doesn't matter. Maybe tonight he will change. Let me give him one more chance. He could have killed him the first day of the battle. Lord Ram can't kill. Lord Ram can't finish this fellow Ravan easily. He could have killed him the first day of the battle. He didn't. Why? Let me give him another chance. That is God. To forgive, to err is human. To forgive is divine. The Lord is willing to give us chance after chance after chance after chance, opportunity after opportunity to change, to mend our ways, to improve, to become caretakers, not selfish owners, to listen to good advice and not do our own. And if we don't do that, again and again the Lord and His devotees try. But if we don't, then the Lord finishes us. Lord Ram, on the last day of the battle with Ravana, his son Indrajit was killed, Kumbhakarna was killed. He put his arrow. He was trying to cut the head of Ravana. One head would fall off, a second would grow. He would cut. He would think, finish, Ravana is gone, the third would grow. In this way, the heads were coming up. Similarly, we try to deal with one negative thing in our mind. By the time that is gone, another pops up with ugly head up. By the time we try to deal with it, another pops it ugly head up. Ram remembered Agastya Rishi had given him an arrow. That arrow had the power to dry up the nectar that was in the heart of Ravana. Till the Amrit was in the heart, the heads would keep growing. So Ram realized, I have to shoot the arrow at the bullseye. I have to shoot the dart at the right spot. Lord Ramchandra took his arrow, put it on the bow, remembered the mantras for the arrows, and released the arrow straight into the heart of Ravan. That arrow dried up the nectar in Ravana's heart, and Ravana dropped to the ground dead. So also within our heart, many of these negative things, envy, greed, pride, lust, egotism, just keep peeping its eye. We try to deal with one, another pops its ugly head up like Ravana. The crux of the issue is the heart, the false ego. Till the time the ego is not shot, these ugly things will not go. Like till the time the nectar in the Ravan's heart is not dried, these things won't go. What is the weapon? Lord Ram's name. Krishna's name is like the weapon to dry up that false ego and bring us to the true ego. False ego means I am the Lord of what I have. True ego means I am the caretaker and servant of the Lord. And therefore, the power of the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Every day when we chant this name of God regularly, it is a battle going on between Ram and Ravan within. Ram is fighting, the name of Ram is going, and the name of Ram and Ram are not different. Name of Krishna and Krishna are not different. They go in and try to shoot the arrow, the holy name, at the right spot and help us deal with the negative things within our mind. And that is called the day of Vijayadashmi. Even today we celebrate the defeat of Ravana, the killing of Ravana by making an effigy of Ravana and burning that Ravana. Vijayadashmi, Dashera, we might make big Ravans and with firecrackers and kill it. And while doing so, still the Ravan within is remaining. And therefore, it is very, very important for real Jagruti to be able to kill the Ravana within. Thus, to conclude, the 5 things that Ravana represents for us are, may I have all of you say with me together? Number 1, Ravan represents a mistaken idea of happiness, that happiness comes from things. Happiness doesn't come from things. Happiness comes from our connection and service to God. Second, what Ravan represents for us within? The grief by being a thief. Ravan was stealing and enjoying. Bharat, everything is God's, I'm simply a caretaker. The third thing that Ravan represents for us is, ye dil mange more. Dissatisfaction in spite of having so much. Ram represents the culture of being satisfied with Sita and not looking for Mandodari like Ravan was looking for Sita. The fourth thing that Ravan represents for us in our heart is willing to hear good advice. Ravan was deaf to good advice, he was destroyed. Ram is giving chance after chance to change. All we have to do is listen. And the fifth thing that Ravan represents is the ego. And the only thing that can deal with the ego is the holy name of the Lord, which is the most powerful weapon for this age of Kali. Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Namaiva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranyatha. In this age of Kali, there is no better means to kill the Ravana within than to chant the holy names of Krishna. That Lord Krishna, that Lord Ram came again as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this age of Kali to disseminate the holy name to the world. And following the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, went all over the world to spread the holy name around. Today there is no continent, no country in the world where people are not chanting Krishna's and Ram's names. Why? Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy was carried by this general of his, Srila Prabhupada. Americans, Canadians, Japanese, Chinese, all alike, black and white, blue and red, everyone, wealthy and poor, successful or a failure. There are all people of all classes, all varieties, all castes, all sexes, chanting the holy name of Krishna and Ram, trying to deal with the Ravana within. And that is the purpose of Jagrati. I would like to express my gratitude to Suhan Karkalji and his family once again before we conclude by thanking him for having organizing this amazing program, and also I think Dempeji for having sponsoring the dinner prasadam very graciously for both the days. They've been very kind even last year to bring this awareness to the people in Goa. It's an amazing endeavor and I must congratulate him for this endeavor. Let us give them a big hand by thanking them for having organized this endeavor. I must also thank the organizers of ISKCON Goa for having organized it wonderfully for us here. And I must definitely thank each and every single one of you. This weekend you could have been relaxing, but you're all here.